What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with a few more content updates and news roundups from Bungie relating to Destiny 2. Of course, over the past few weeks we have had a lot of content and things are starting to cool down just a little bit, but despite this, today we're going to talk about glitchy vendors, Xur's latest tricks in the game, more quest fixes from Bungie, and they start to talk about the transition between Season 8 and 9 just a little bit. So we're also going to round up some of the changes that we can expect to see in Season of Dawn, and for the future at Bungie talk about crossplay, unique and free rewards, and we get absolute clarity the One-Eyed Mask will be tuned. But on top of this, they answer a little bit of feedback about trials, the factions, and a bunch of other stuff we'll round up in the video. So guys, if you enjoyed this one, a rating below is very much appreciated, but now let's get into it. And so the first thing we should talk about would be our slimy-faced friend Xur. He's over in the European Dead Zone this week, and as always I did upload the video for Xur yesterday, but it turns out he's a little bit bugged in that he's now selling Risk Runner instead of Cerberus +1, which he actually had at the reset time. Bungie did tweet out and they said due to a recent transition to Pacific Standard Time, Xur's inventory partially reset at the old daily reset time of 10 AM, and we're investigating this issue for future weeks. And so essentially some of his inventory has the potential to reset an hour after his initial visit. It's possible that Bungie can apply a server-side fix before his next visit, but otherwise it could be kind of annoying, but at the same time, also possibly an opportunity if you are actually collecting exotics still, because you could pick up one weapon at 9 AM and another at 10, but we'll have to see what happens. For now though, he does have Risk Runner and not Cerberus +1, so bear that in mind, and if he's affected in future weeks, I'll post his inventory when he arrives, and then I'll put a comment in the description and in the comments section if his inventory actually updates. Via Twab a couple of days ago, they did say that next week, an Infamy boost is going live for Gambit, and a new raid challenge will be available for the Garden of Salvation. And so if you need to grind out any Gambit, next week is definitely going to be a good time. And on the subject of the Garden of Salvation challenges, there are actually 4 of them, so this week we have this Staying Alive challenge, but we're also going to see a link to the chain to the top, and 0 to 100, which are the other 3 challenges, so the next one will be available after Tuesday's weekly reset. Another quick shout right here for Izanagi's Burden. But after Bungie's update on Thursday, there was a further issue with the Black Armory key mold, and so for some affected players this should help. Bungie said that they've implemented a fix that will allow Black Armory key molds to be picked up on all characters, which hopefully will lift any further restrictions on that quest that you're experiencing. Now, in Bungie's most recent update, they essentially confirmed Season of Dawn for 10th of December, but initially they were talking about new title seal pins, so if you're working on the Undying title, be sure to finish that before the 10th of December, and they also say if you want to buy the pin, make sure you claim the code and make that purchase before the 10th as well. After the 10th of December, Season of Dawn will begin, and of course we'll get new titles and activities, and we'll touch on some of the changes and things we can expect next season in a moment. But Bungie also list August 2020 as the date for the Shadowkeep and Garden of Salvation pins, and that is of course because they'll be prepping that ready for the September 2020 release, which of course will be the next kind of major annual milestone on the roadmap, so I'm really curious to see what that next September drop could actually look like, but we do still have 3 other seasons to enjoy first, so no rush, I guess. Another interesting thing which could happen with future console generations, or another kind of major release, is the possibility of crossplay, and Bungie have said once again that crossplay is definitely something they're interested in exploring more in the future. And so certainly this is something that we would see alongside a major release, but how easily Bungie could do it with current hardware is kind of a different question. Nonetheless, it's something that they're definitely talking about, and depending on the lifespan of Destiny 2 now, the upcoming console generations will definitely be a consideration for Bungie for this game, assuming they don't plan to drop D3 in the next couple of years or something, which certainly doesn't appear to be the case based on what they've said. Be sure to let us know your thoughts on that, but in Bungie's recent twab, they do reiterate that they have the Braytech Werewolf shirt. This is something you can pick up in the Bungie store if you complete that quest in game, but probably even cooler since it's free would be the Dark Orbit emblem. So if you like the look of that emblem, be sure to claim it by finishing the festival intro quest and then heading to Bungie rewards, which I've linked down below. They also give us a better look at a replica of the Hive Relic sword that you can pick up if you've actually completed the new dungeon, and really cool Jade Rabbit figurines that you can get in the store as well. I didn't want to turn this into a kind of advert for the Bungie store or anything like that, but I did want to highlight the items briefly because I think they're actually pretty neat. But for changes that we're going to see hopefully in Season of Dawn, DMG confirmed that the ability kill Iron Banner bounty is hopefully something that they're going to be able to update next season. I believe that's the Arsenal of Tricks bounty. There's been quite a bit of feedback about how long it takes to get that one done. And then a sandbox adjustment that Bungie suggested they were looking into would of course be changes to One-Eyed Mask. And DMG has now confirmed that One-Eyed Mask will actually be tuned in a future update, so they're no longer just looking to make a change in the future. It appears that that adjustment is definitely on the cards now. As to how they will tune One-Eyed Mask, I don't know, to be honest, whether they'll go for reducing the overshield even more, or adjustments to target tracking and things like that. Considering you get that overshield, in my opinion, I think you could easily remove the tracking from One-Eyed Mask and it'd still be a pretty good exotic. But whether that would really address the core of the feedback that players actually make about the exotic, yeah, I'm not entirely sure, so let us know your thoughts on it. But DMG was, funnily enough, responding to a Reddit post where somebody shared a One-Eyed Mask Voodoo doll that their wife had made to throw at the TV in frustration. There you have it, maybe Voodoo dolls are the real Titan fix right there. But separate to these couple of kind of adjustments, Bungie have also said that starting in Season of Dawn, we're going to get new mods, which are kind of broad category for Ammo Finder and Scavenger, and they'll all automatically be unlocked onto our characters, and this will improve the kind of ease of customization for that type of mod slot. Bungie are also going to let us stack more mods of the same type on one piece of gear, so we'll be able to have things like double loader or Ammo Finder mods, and they're going to be tuning the energy costs for certain mods so that we can actually do this a little bit easier than we'd be able to right now. And they say that stacking mods will generally provide the benefit of an equivalent enhanced mod. So if you can't get an enhanced loader mod, for instance, then we'll be able to stack 2 of the normal versions to get the same effect, just at a higher cost. On top of this, Bungie will be updating the mod collection in the game, and that will allow it to display affinities and energy costs for all of the mods in that list. And those are kind of confirmed changes. I'm sure they'll continue to look at things like the artifact and the Pinnacle Power system. People are still making feedback about Pinnacle Power, and I think considering the change that we've only just had in the game, DMG rightly said that they're currently monitoring responses to that change. And of course, they'll be watching that on the game side to see how quickly people are actually progressing. And so, for example, if they were to adjust prime engrams or even exotic drops to have Pinnacle level, then that could substantially affect progression, especially on the Pinnacle side. So via multiple posts from Bungie community managers, they are very much paying attention, and so hopefully if any further adjustments are necessary, they can look to get them done potentially next season. And in general for Season of Dawn, I'd say that kind of like with something like Black Armory following up a major drop in September, it probably is a time where we will see a fair few adjustments to the new systems in particular. So we are literally a month away from that next major drop, and of course Bungie will talk about it at some point before it actually happens, so it's not an awfully long time whatsoever. On the subject of other pieces of feedback though, one user on Reddit said, "It's been 14 months since you put Trials on hiatus and 17 months since you killed faction rallies. Can you please give these 2 franchise staples some development time?" And that's an interesting statement in itself. I mean, are they franchise staples anymore? They certainly used to be, but regardless, Cosmo says, "We don't have any new info on either of these topics. The team is aware of feedback for Trials to return, and for either factions to return permanently like in D1, some form of faction rallies to return, or for faction gear to return." And those are totally true, right? The curious thing on the subject of Trials, once again, would be those teases from Luke Smith. And so if something's actually being developed, of course Bungie aren't going to talk about it on the Trials front just yet, because they'll want to actually make an announcement if it's going to be a thing. But yeah, I really hope we do see some kind of adjustment or an update to factions. But unless Bungie actually developed a faction-focused kind of season of content, then I'd imagine, to be honest, because it's a big change in the game, it's probably something that we would see in another kind of Shadowkeep style drop or more of an annual update. But believe me, I want to see all of that stuff just as much as you guys. There's been a lot of feedback about Crucible, and of course now when we're loading into PvP matches, we can actually see what maps we're going to be on, which is really good. But there's also feedback about map voting, and DMG said he's got this onto the list of Crucible feedback. He doesn't really know when the requests could be prioritized, but the team has started pulling maps out of the rotation on a seasonal basis to address some bugs, issues, and feedback for specific maps, and they're going to continue to do that. But when it comes to Crucible at the moment, especially I think with Sandbox, there seems to be a lot of feedback. Things like One-Eyed Mask and the potency of particular exotics, builds, and classes, as well as weapons like Erentil, for example. There's a pretty vibrant conversation about PvP, and so I am very curious to see what it is that Bungie do next, now that they've kind of said that their focus on PvP is renewed moving into the future. Presumably that isn't just happening with what we're seeing in this season. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on that. They're also taking feedback from players that would like to see an Iron Banner freelance mode. How do you guys feel about that, especially now that we have it for competitive? I think it is a pretty valid point, right? I'd love to hear your reaction to the feedback down below, guys, but for known issues in the game right now, so these are issues since the most recent update, there are a couple of new listings, including that Vex Offensive is not currently offering its powerful rewards milestone. And so bear that in mind if you are grinding that. There is an issue with it at the moment. They're also tracking an issue where Titans can only throw 1 hammer or shield per super activation in momentum control. channel. I believe that is a random bug, it's not a consistent problem. An issue where the Firewall Haunted Forest can't be accessed by non-PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live Gold players, and some universal ornaments which may appear to be locked in collections after they've actually been obtained. So if you're experiencing any of those, Bungie are aware of them. And so there we go guys, that's just a quick update and some feedback for today. I know it was a little bit of a mixed bag of news and kind of updates and things that are going on, but I figured some of the news will be useful and much of the other conversation is fairly relevant and stimulating right now. So as always, give us your thoughts down in the comments section, but if you've enjoyed the video, a rating is very much appreciated, and if you're new to the channel, be sure to get subscribed and turn on notifications if you do enjoy the content and you want to keep up to date. Otherwise, thank you as always for tuning in guys, and I hope you have an awesome day.